to me, the best scene in Evil Dead 2 is when everything is moving in the room, and he just looks at the lamp and he does he imitates the lamp.
Right.
What is going on, everybody? It's your boy, the Lo-Fi Horror Guy. Welcome to another episode of the Lo-Fi Horror Guys Growing on You Live. Super excited. The Jerry Farley is going to be on today. My man has production credits, engineering credits on tons of stuff. We're going to dig into all of this. Super excited. Cannot wait.
Let's get him on here.
Jerry!
Hey, what's going on?
What's up, man? How's it going?
It's going awesome. Just,
beautiful.
I was gonna try and be in another part of my apartment, not my workroom with this purple light, but there's construction outside. All of a sudden, like 20 minutes before, it's like jackhammers, like you know. So I was like, oh great, this is perfect for me. So
right, okay. I mean, the purple light gives it a nice ambiance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
It's very calming.
It's my wife's bonsai over there.
Oh, okay.
It's very pretty.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on first and foremost, and welcome to Growing on You Live, man.
Thank you for having me.
I've seen you on a couple of the videos, and I am so excited to have you on. So basically, we have a couple of icebreaker questions. We're gonna dig into you and your craft, and then we have a special finale question just for you, Jerry. So if you're ready, man, we're gonna dig in.
Ready? Let's dig in. I got my coffee.
All right, man.
Coffee going.
So the first that I'm gonna have to throw at you is, if I'm traveling through Brooklyn, what local food spot or pizzeria? Where are we going, Jerry?
Where are we going?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would have to say the majority of them, because I'm born and raised South Brooklyn, would have to be in that area. Definitely have to go to LMB. Shout out to LMB Spumoni Gardens.
Okay.
And you know what I've learned recently when I was on Brooklyn Blast Furnace with Craig, that even though I lived around the block from the pizzeria for 4 or 5 years, literally around the block, you have to sit down in the restaurant, and that pie is even better than the one you get at the window.
Okay.
And there's some other pizza guys out there that kind of go and they get a regular slice there. It's like, you're doing it all wrong. You need to get the square, and I'm a center square kind of guy. So other spots in Brooklyn, I would say you have to go to Rollin' Roaster.
Okay.
Rollin' Roaster, Brian Shank. My buddy Brian Shank did a dance back in the 90s for it. But Rollin' Roaster is like a South Brooklyn staple. Like in the summertime, they're open till like 2 a.m. Black and white shape. Have you ever been there?
I haven't. No.
All right, you have to come to Brooklyn. I'll take you there.
Dude, I am so excited. I came just this last, a couple years ago, and I went through Rochester. That's my New York experience. But we were supposed to be coming this summer, and all this happened, and it got ruined.
Yep. And so if you're in Bay Ridge, you got to go to Pizza Wagon. If you're in Coney Island, you obviously got to hit Nathan's Famous and a few other spots. I've never happened all my life living here, 40-some years. I've only caught Totono's in Coney Island like once. They're usually closed.
Okay.
They're like, whatever, we don't feel like making pizza today, or whatever the idea is.
Right.
But yeah, and if you want really good spinach pie and hummus and things like that, you got to go to Samia's in Bay Ridge.
Okay.
Grape leaves. I'm a vegetarian, so and she just kills it with the vegetarian Middle Eastern food. So
awesome.
Yeah, those are my top of my head type
I
spot.
love it. I love it. That sounds great. Yeah, I've mentioned before, I asked that bit just because my wife and I, do some traveling every once in a while, and of course we're going to come through New York, and I've gotten plenty of inspiration, so I'm super excited to get over there and check some of that stuff out.
Awesome.
So now, as far as if I could throw at you three bands that you've never worked with that you're a fan of, who'd we go with?
Wow. Probably these guys.
Ooh, yeah.
That would be a terrific and fun party.
Oh yeah.
Um, I would definitely say, I think Mike something because I'm a big Mr. Bungle fan.
Yes.
And everything else too. Faith No More, Phantom Mouse, all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
You
Okay.
know. And I'm gonna say, I don't know. I feel like I want to say Guar because I just found my first Guar shirts were like, yeah, I just found them like yesterday. I was at my parents' house. I found an old Guar hat I had. Like, it was one of the first shows I've ever been to. But
Hell yeah.
I would like to probably do a full length with Madball.
Yeah. Okay.
That would be pretty rad. Maybe AF. If AF wanted to do an album with me, that'd be excellent.
Oh yeah.
There's plenty of hardcore bands. I can go up and down the list of bands that I would love to do. But it depends on the genre, really.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, those would be some great ones to put down on the roster. Just because I think they would be like fun.
Yeah.
They would be
For
fun
sure.
and creatively fun.
Well, and that's a cool thing, is looking through, kind of the roster of stuff that you've done in your discography. You have a wide range of stuff. It's not necessarily just hardcore mentioned in. I mean, you have, different stuff, and we're gonna, dig a little bit into that. But yeah,
If I was to stick with hardcore and punk, I would probably definitely want to do an Eval record.
Yeah.
If they ever decide to do a record again, I would be all in. Like, know their catalog by heart.
Sick. Very cool. Okay. So, and speaking of such, I mean, with credits to Every Time I Die, El Nino, Candiria, Lamb of God, Vision of Disorder, E-Town Concrete, of course, Sick of It All. Where did it all start with you getting involved in the studio? What was your early inspirations with this?
Strangely enough, yesterday I was helping my parents clear out a bunch of stuff, which is why I found a bunch of old stuff from when I lived in my parents' house. I moved out when I was like 19, but before that they had this like attic room where I was allowed to set up my drum set. I'm a drummer just like you.
Sick.
And my dad was a drummer, so I would play his set. He had a Vistalite Ludwig set from the 60s. He traded a car for it. And so it's like that John Bonham type look, the clear. Lots of my Brooklyn friends know that drum set. They've played it. We brought it to shows. But I started with recording a 4-track, like a cassette 4-track in my room. And I would record like my band, my friends coming over, and we would just jam in this big room that we had.
Mm-hmm.
And that just sparked my interest. So I ended up, after the third high school I went to, and I was a super senior, I needed some sort of direction. So I went to City High School in Manhattan, where I would intern at different studios. I would also intern at venues like Wetlands and in the 90s. And so I just loved the idea. And the old Knitting Factory, which was in Manhattan at the time, not in Brooklyn, they had a studio downstairs, and I would record there, and then I would record my own band at like Fast Lane in South Brooklyn and PCM on Bay 8th Street, which is where Indecisions Unorthodox was done.
Nice.
And this guy, Ron Thal, who's known as Bumblefoot, he plays guitar in Guns N' Roses, he would start showing me like little things when he was recording one of my first bands, Muddlehead. And that just sparked my interest. And so I ended up taking this internship at Fastlane Studios, which is where I got my beginning, Mikey, Big Boss, he's known for working with Biohazard, and having typo negative guys and all those like rich South Brooklyn bands like Life of Agony and everything. And that was all the bands I went to see at L'Amour's. So I was like, I wanna record these bands, and so I sat there and I interned, and then he moved me up to like assistant engineer, and I moved to Long Island to go to school for engineering, and it really just started to take off from there. And like I've been doing like recording bands as my like for a living for the past 20 years, And
That's so
you know, it
sick.
started with like Most Precious Blood, like doing their demo after they stopped being Indecision, and
Yeah.
we formed some members, and guys from Fahrenheit 451, you know, doing like a band called Black House Burning, and I'm gonna record them soon as Crazy Eddie, and
Oh, sick.
you know, and just
That
and just
rules.
kind of like starting this like transition into not really like, oh, I want to record the biggest pop star, but I was like, I really only want to record good people who are interested in having a good time making music,
Mhm.
who make music I like. Like,
Yeah.
that's, you know, I mean, I wasn't interested in like going and recording Mariah Carey. I don't care. I just don't care. I know there's definitely more money in the studio,
Right.
possibly, I don't know, but to me it was just like I just wanted to get involved in and all my friends were going out on tour, Shutdown and Incision, which was like the first tour I ever went out on as
Mhm.
their like tech guy, but I was more of like I would like the creative process, so I kind of honed in and focused on the studio, and then yeah, and then I moved on to other studios like Mirror Image and all the ones that were in Times Square. Some of them, most of them have closed down now,
Okay.
but
Okay.
yeah, you know, so that was like the beginnings.
So with you, because you mentioned the wetlands, were you doing the sounding, the like the sound teching for shows at like local venues?
No, so
Okay.
with City High School, they're an alternative public school. So
Hmm.
basically, you get to be a junior, and then you can apply to be there, and you're going to take internships at jobs in the city for high school credits. So I needed certain things like I was working at this Greenwich House of Music, you know, as a like an art instructor for like a certain credit here. Wetlands, I was actually there for their eco defense department. So I
Oh.
was involved in a lot of, you know, like protest arrangements and things like that,
Oh wow.
and you know, that kind of area. And then as a bonus, I also got to work with the shows and like the Sunday matinees and you know, some of the live sound stuff. But that was just because I knew everyone in the club, you know. So
Sure.
um, you know, and then I would work at Fastlane, and Fastlane was actually where they would be like, I don't even know what credits they give me for engineering, but they were giving me credits toward. Should ask my wife. Wife, economics. Okay,
Okay.
I met her at that studio. She was actually an intern. She went to the same high school later, but she got out of music. She's in science now, so it's
Oh,
not,
okay. All right.
you know. But
Beautiful.
economics. So basically, that was the whole, you know, like it was cool to like have actual high school kind of focus my direction, because I was
Yeah.
just interested in like smoking weed, drinking, skateboarding, going to shows. Like that's all I wanted to
Right.
do, and
Right.
this seemed like the closest thing to it at the time. So you know,
Sick.
that was it. But Wetlands was an amazing time to be like place to be a part of in
Sure.
the mid and late '90s. It
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
that CBGB's Continental, like PWAC out in Long Island. It was incredible.
Yeah, you know, it's always I feel like any sort of community or any sort of scene, that's kind of their aspiration is like making something like that. But you know, I think no matter how hard, you know, I don't think you know hardcore will ever die. But you know, I don't think that that moment in time can ever be recreated. Just from all the things that you hear, all the stories, all the music that was happening at the time, very you know revolutionary.
Yeah, you know, it's like in the '90s, which is my era, because that's when I was like a teenager. Like there on, like I would hear lots of stories of like, oh, you don't know what it was like back in '88 or '82, and I was like, no, I don't. But I love this right now. And like, oh, it's different
Right.
change, you know, it didn't know what it was, and I'm like, it's happening right now, you know. And it
Mhm.
was just a different, you know, different genre. It changed, you know, in it could be with politically in a way that it got kind of more towards like animal rights and human rights
Right.
and you know, started to involve that a little more. But you know, the music also changed. You had like post-hardcore bands and things like that. You know,
Mhm.
Quicksand, that was like the first band I ever covered at my first show I ever played. You know, that and
Okay.
Nirvana, you know, and like Fugazi and like those bands. And you have this kind of arena of like the early emo, you know, the Sunny Day Real Estate
Yeah.
and it just I loved being a part of this very eclectic scene,
Yeah, for sure.
you know. So it was special in New York City. It was pretty special.
Yeah. Okay.
Still
That's
is.
awesome. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I was to say, it still is. There's still great stuff coming out. So now your most recent work, as far as being a producer engineer, I kind of wanted to focus on your album with Sick of It All, Wake the Sleeping Dragon. Um, so what were the early conversations of having you on board as far as producing and being a part of this?
Um, well, the interesting thing is I feel like my entire album, like career, I have no like set like, oh, this is what I want to do, and I kind of like move with what people are interested in. People usually approach me. I don't like chase down people. Like people come up to me and they're like, hey, I have an idea for this, or I want to record this.
Sure.
So like all those other bands you kind of named, like El Nino to Every Time I Die, like it's that started as me being like just a digital editor. Like El Nino for the Freddy vs. Jason soundtrack, that single was the main single for that movie, and that kind of hit home with me, and then
Yeah.
like, but I was just I'm like quantizing and like editing stuff, and I'm over there just editing. You know what I mean? I wasn't anywhere near a producer engineer. But that's what I ultimately want to do. Is like I want to be the guy who is talking about the musical parts, and so you move along. I move with producers like Dave Vendeth and my like audio engineer brother Dan Corniff on those records, and then I would move on to working with Machine to do Lamb of God and Every Time I Die and Fall Out Boy and like things like that, and all the time being like editor, assistant engineer, things like that, up to the point where I got to be the assistant engineer to Madsen when we did Last Act of Defiance, and I had actually recorded Lou on The Last Stand. I did a record with them, and Lou came and did a guest vocal, and then I kind of pitched to Lou. He was like, "Wow, this studio, Nova Studio, which is where I do almost all my work out of." He's like, "This studio is really nice. I would love to do an album here," and I was like, let's do it here. And he was just like, I don't know, like two Madsons are like guy, and I was like, that's awesome. I love Two's work. Let's fly him here, And so, that's the relationship we still have today. We flew two Madsen to the studio, and basically that's the team. It's two, Larry management, and Sick of It All, and myself. It's a one, two mixes all the records and masters it. I've been tracking. So we did that first record, and then we did the EP, the 35th anniversary, and they liked what I brought to the table production-wise. So with the Wake the Sleeping Dragon, they were like, "Hey, Jerry, why don't you take a crack at producing this, and we'll have two mix it, in Denmark, and that'll be the plan." And I think it's a plan that works. So.
Yeah, hell yeah. It's certainly, I mean, you can love, I mean, being a Sick of It All fan, I've had a couple of the guys on already, and I'll have on Lou and my man at some point here, soon. But I just basically, like, getting into their earlier stuff, you love and respect the music, but then one thing I appreciate nowadays is hearing some of these bands and just the production of how they can sound now, even from like Agnostic Front and the newer Madball and the newest Sick of It All. That was like the one thing specifically when Two and you got involved with the band, it was just like, whoa, like overwhelming. You can already love the band, then now it's just like there's just so much punching you in the face with the production wise. So certainly adds a whole other element to the band.
It's funny. It's like I remember the first time I heard Sick of It All. It was my first girlfriend. It was like she was at a job at a rectory in a church, and I was sitting in like the back of this like church rectory with our cassette listening to, and she had gotten I think Just Look Around, and I remember staring at the cover and being like, interesting cover, and put it on, and it was like no band I had heard yet, and I was like, what is this? So, and it's funny because recently I'm like mixing something that we're planning on. We're working on and everything, and I'm just like, I'm gonna make this sound a little bit like Just Look Around. Like I'm gonna go for that kind of era because there's plenty of ways to approach recording now, but I still keep it kind of like even though I record stuff digitally, I try and keep it still as if it's a tape machine, as analog as possible. So I'd rather you perform it great, have a great take, and maybe punch in a spot or slice in a spot rather than I'll fix and manipulate it and do all this. I'd rather just like get the raw motion of the player and then allow that to translate more than me trying to get it into a perfect scenario.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Awesome. And I guess as far as like early prep for the album was knocked out in a little over 2 weeks, correct? At Nova Studios, as you were mentioning?
Yes.
Okay.
So the interesting thing about that is that majority of the work is done in pre-production. That's why we can actually bang it out. It was definitely a little bit over 2 weeks when it came to tracking, probably about like 18 days or so.
Okay.
Maybe a day or two added to that for gang vocals.
Mm-hmm.
But I was honored to be the first producer that they allowed into the writing process at the studio. We did 2 pre-production sessions where we came in for like a week and we worked on the first half of songs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would take the music that we recorded in the live room all together, like amps, bass, and everything, in the same room, not isolated, and just throw mics up and just track what the songs were. Try different little bit tempos, different keys, maybe change some sections. Let the guys kind of write and be there from the start of the song, like a demo. Like Pete would have like a demo of a guitar thing, and then we would take it, and me and Lou would go and do vocal exercises and work on the melodies we were going to use and the timing, so he would feel more comfortable instead of being thrown to the wolves. Like, okay, here's the song, now sing it, learn it and sing it. You know what I mean? Which he always says was something he hates doing, because he always feels like when he goes out on tour, he feels more comfortable with the new songs all of a sudden, and he's like, why can't I record them now? So, and I get that. It's like, as a drummer, if you would have people like, this is the parts, and you're like, and then later on you're like, oh, I could have did this, I could have,
right.
Mess around with it a little bit.
Yeah, so we got to live with the songs first for a few months. So there was 2 different sessions, then me and Lou would work on vocals, and guys would give, change words, change, and then so when we came in to actually make, track the album, there was very little that was still being worked out. I encouraged Craig to kind of work a little more on his songs, because there was some songs that are very, very, like, Craig, like Intervision, like Craig's just like, yeah, I got this, I want to do this. and then he had 2+2, which little known fact, Craig is the one singing on 2+2. Okay. And he had the song, and I was like, I want to bust it, like I want a new version. He's like, hey, and we got to have this whole song, and at the end I was like, we got to have this breakdown. We're all in the room together, and we're getting excited, and this is during pre-production. And we just started bouncing ideas off of each other about like how the breakdown is going to come. And because there was no breakdown, and all of a sudden he's like, oh, it's ignorant. I was like, yeah, I want to flip the merch table. I want it to be like really ignorant, and he was like, yeah, I got you. I got it. And then, we put it together, and everyone loved it. And it was cool because I was sitting there going like, wow, they're taking like my suggestion, and they're like, well, you get us. You know what I mean? And that's because they, grew up listening to all these bands, and you just know when you feel like something should be somewhere or should go a certain way, and and if my approach is it's a team, always a team effort. So if I bring the we aspect to it, like we should try this, I feel like people are more open to my suggestions, which is their songs. They say no, that's fine,
right?
But it's your song, so
But it's one thing also that it's, complementing the track. It's not just some goofball thing, way out in left field that they're like,
Yeah.
How about let's try a singing part? And it's like, no.
Yeah, exactly. I know how to read the room sometimes, too. I'll be like, hey, how about this? And they're just like, and I'm like, all right, just forget it.
Yeah, right.
I was like, I'm not going to take that personal. It was just an idea. We get plenty of ideas. Doesn't mean all of them are good.
Yeah, for sure. So as far as like a recording timeline, what were the first tracks that were recorded, and what came last?
That's interesting. Bull's Anthem, we worked on like a lot of times just because we wanted to find the right key for it, but that was definitely a pretty early one. Armand kind of comes with his stuff that he usually has like focus with like drums and tempos and progressions, and and Pete and Craig, they'll have like arrangements and different guitar things. They'll be like, "What do you think about this?" And here's the parts. How long should we, So that there'll be a little more. So it's kind of like, I feel like Armand's songs get addressed kind of first, and then like the Pete and Craig songs get addressed kind of second, because they take a little longer to formulate to people to hear, because they're just hearing a riff, rather than Armand will have like, here's my idea for bass, here's my idea for guitar, here's drums, and then everyone will be like, yay, nay, yay, nay. And so those tend to get worked on first. So the song that Armand sings, the New Slavery at the end, that was one of the ones that was definitely worked on first. Bull's Anthem, Robert Moses Was a Racist, things like that. Like, he's just like, here's the song. And we're like, cool. Like, how do you want us to sing it? And, and I'll maybe have him do a guide vocal so we can see like how delivery is. Okay. Because they're a team. They're guys that have worked together for how many decades. Right. Right. They may disagree about things and be like, and I get to be the ambassador between them. Mm-hmm. But like, it's a team effort. So everyone, everyone's sitting down writing lyrics. Everyone's sitting down, coming up with riffs, or that section's too long. So it's, it's like a we
approach.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I'm looking for.
How did it end up working out as far as, because I had Armand on, and I can't believe I didn't bring up the New Slavery. I kick myself in the ass still. But as far as him doing the vocals on that track, and then Craig being on 2+2, how did that work out as far as the boys being like, you know what, just sing it?
So that was completely my kind of thing, because they were like, looked at me like, really? Like that wasn't the plan for those songs. I mean, Lou sings like half a 2+2, meaning just the Life in Transit with separate from Craig. But I feel like people really enjoy like those guys when they sing. Like Armand recently did the Rest in Pieces Black and Blue show, and so I felt like that's a good opportunity and a good kind of era to kind of just bring him back in that vocal aspect. And then Craig, obviously they still play Busted, and I just kind of wanted to just have it break it up a little bit, so you got Lou singing all these songs, and all of a sudden I think 2+2 is like either 6th or 7th track, and then bang, you got a different vocalist, and then you have the second half of the album, and then you have it ending with Armand. So it's kind of like you have a little bit of a different, like almost like two sides of the record, where it's like, and it's just not all on Lou, because you have multiple talents, and Armand and Craig sang a bunch on the EP too, right? So did and the Bouncing Souls guys did some stuff on the last song, but they weren't like as front and center as doing the vocal. And I went to Lou first. I was like, "What do you think about this?" He's like, "Sure." Fun. It's like, you gotta sing 16 songs, in 2 days. Right. Let them take one, and I have them all doing Melissa Cross vocal warm-ups, which I make almost all my vocalists do. So Armand was like, "Man, give me a beer," and he would go in there and do it. And Craig was like upstairs doing the Melissa Cross, and he was like, this really helps. And Lou actually has it on his phone for when he's on tour to warm up to. Because he feels like it helps with his range. He can hit the notes and he sometimes wouldn't normally be able to, like cold. So he's like, using that has helped, so David Zaguri just like that, because he knows I use that with him. And so, yeah. So, I think it's just, like I said, I just throw an idea out there, and then you're just like, that's cool, let's try it. If it doesn't work, like say someone did, like, I don't like how I'm singing it. Okay, then let's get Lou in there,
Hell yeah, okay. So as far as, any great Sick of It All record has to come great gang vocals. What's the magic touch for you in getting what we ended up getting?
Well, you gotta get a bunch of hooligans. You gotta get a bunch of real, like, ignorant, like I said now. basically, I like people who, you know, are going to have a good time and who are fun to be around because, you know, there's going to be a lot of work. People are like, yeah, they're psyched to do it, you know, the first 2-3 songs. And when they realize they're like 8 songs into barking, they're losing their voice. They're like, all right, when are we going to be done?
Yeah.
You know, but what we did was on this record is where we do the drums in the live room at Nova.
Mm-hmm.
I usually get about 20 to 30 people, which is my kind of dream scenario, mixed with, you know, some mainly vocalists of different bands, but, you know, otherwise friends and, you know, family. And I split them into 2 teams. There's Team Armand and Team Craig. And
Okay.
and they'll kind of like, I'll pit them against each other. And I'll put 2 mics in the room, both Neumann U87s. One will be like everyone's surrounding in a semicircle, and it's set to cardioid. And then another U87 in the back of the room set to Omni, and that's kind of cupped up towards the ceiling. And I just yell at them a lot till they yell back at me in the lyrics. I'll write out the lyrics on a big piece of paper, just like a big marker of what the lyric is. And, you know, we'll show it to them, and then we'll kind of have a competition, and, like, who can do it better, you know, and
Damn.
You know, Craig will pick a lot of guys who are bald, and then Armand will get real about it. And, you know, it's a good time, and then everyone gets pizza and water, so.
Oh my god, that is so funny. So how did? Oh my god. All right. The bald statement just got me.
Yeah, because do you know one of the songs on the record?
The hardcore horseshoe.
Is a little reference to baldness, the hardcore horseshoe.
Yeah.
You know
yeah.
about how you be at the show, and it's kind of like people standing keeping that spot open, and when you know a bunch of like bald dudes are yelling that, you know, like Armand's in the corner like. He's loving it, you know. So,
oh god, that's great. I know at one point there's a lyric saying something about put the toupee or put the wig on and cover the bald
Thank
spot.
you.
And,
that was my little thing. Armand wrote all these lyrics. And he turns to me and he goes, oh, I really wish we could work the word toupee into there. I was like, come on, dude. They'll be held to pay. And he was like, and he like rearranged like 2 lines. Oh, they'll be held to pay, you know. And I was, yes, I got my lyric in there.
So awesome. That is badass. As far as the final track listing, how did what went into that? I know as far as you'd mentioned that you wanted 2+2 being kind of in the middle there, and then the new slavery at the very end. But what was that process like as far as saying okay, this is how we want it to we want this session to be?
Well, there's always lots of debate with that with bands because you get so used to hearing things for a while, and then there's songs that are newer, and so sometimes your brain will kind of arrange them like that. I feel like, but. And by that time you're listening to it so much, it's kind of hard to have that outside view. And
right.
At first there was like a track listing, and I was kind of like, me and Lou were like, what? And then like everyone was like, I was like, try this one, and everyone was like, yeah, what about this? But I don't like this one. I was like, sure, put that over there. And then we ended up with something that I felt was like a good side A, side B type scenario, because that's how I always kind of see a full length is like flip the record. So it's like sometimes you want to just listen to the second half, sometimes the first half, but it should keep your interest the whole way through, which is a little hard. So you need like, part 2, a second act, you need a little like an intermission. Like I feel like that 2+2 thing isn't like an intermission, like, stop listening, but it's a step away from, one person, which you can start to almost become a little monotone. Hearing the same thing, and then just step away from it and hear someone else, and then it's like when the other person comes back to sing main vocal, it's like a fresh new thing again,
Right,
so
right.
I try and look at it like that, and that's not always the case, but because songs, content is different. But with this record, it was kind of like, what songs are we gonna, focus putting visuals with, that's usually side A and things like that.
So in total, the album runs 17 tracks.
Was there? I mean, and the crazy thing is it doesn't feel like it. You put on the first track, and I mean, it's literally, it just kind of seems like next thing you know, the first track is starting again. It's entertaining all the way through. It's constantly, like you say, there's different little things, maybe a couple tracks in where something points out, or 2+2 comes, and then there's an ignorant part at the end. You're like, oh god, what's coming next? The album just is standout. Did you guys have? Did you have other tracks that you recorded that didn't end up making it?
There were two that just kind of, everyone just kind of were like,
Okay.
it just kind of, we usually have a bunch of actions. Not to say that they're not going to ever come out, or we put out, but when we did Last Act of Defiance, it was kind of like we completed all the songs, and then there was like a European release that had those two extra, and then one was on I think a 7-inch or a split or something like that, or a compilation. I don't remember, but with this one, we kind of like formulated it as like, this is the record, and the two were kind of like, because it was called Wake the Sleeping Dragon, it kind of almost, there was a little bit of a story to it outside of the songs that are kind of funny. It was like there was a little bit of a general theme of protest, and these two were just like cool, but they just don't seem to be here. They're Sick of It All songs, but they just don't seem to be with these songs. So it was kind of like that. These were the songs. Let's focus on these and complete these, especially when it came to the gang vocals, because we had to make people. We had 2 days of it, and 2 teams, and making people bark 17 songs.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that you find it entertaining the whole way through. That's
hell yeah.
What you want. You want to keep them listening to the whole thing.
And at first I thought, maybe my dogs were bringing back the trend of like Korn in the earlier 90s, and there was going to be a 10-second intro and then a 15-second intermission and then an outro. I'm like, holy shit, this is all music and it rules. It's wild.
Yeah, I'm all for some of the artsy fartsy, like little interlude type stuff, and definitely into, when it comes to hardcore, an intro, outro.
Yeah.
If I could put those back in, I'll do that. But I was kind of happy that there was like almost no room for any type of like kind of filler type stuff. You know what I mean? It was just song, like that's what we felt like. It needed to kind of like be like how Craig would just like say it's a boxing match and it hits you with this and then it'll jab to your ear. And the only kind of musical interlude that we did kind of post was like the opening to Intervision, which we wanted it to be kind of like Clockwork Orange, 1970s, Kubrick-y Warriors type creeping in, and then kind of set that aura of that weird of that science fiction-y horror type sound, what I mean? And then start the album.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, it was something that used to drive me nuts, actually, was I buy an album that's 12 songs, and it's like, it's only like maybe 5 actual songs, and the rest of it's intermissions, so just seeing 17 tracks at first, you're like, oh, geez, what am I in for here? But it's an ass beater all the way through.
Awesome.
Beautiful. So on top of, this, just a side passion of yours is, you love horror as well. I have to bring it up. It's the Lo-Fi Horror Guys show. So, we had to mention a little bit of horror. And, 70s and 80s in particular, correct? That's your bag?
I would definitely say so, because the weird thing is like now, like I tend to examine everything production-wise. But when I was, younger and being like, I was just amazed by, I still knew that there were productions that the hardest thing is for like a movie to actually scare me. Okay. Because I kind of always pulled them apart like as if a book. I think Apocalypse Now scared me, like when I first saw it. But like, I think The Shining scared me when I first saw it, and I recently read it too, and it scared me. Yeah. But like I loved like stuff like Nightmare on Elm Street, Dawn of the Dead, Jaws. Like Jaws, I was in between. Jaws scared me, but I still knew it was a movie. You know what I mean? So I liked that, playing with that, back and forth. And so you got, Friday the 13th in the back. My dad actually worked on that.
Yeah, you remember the old CEDs?
Yep.
Got the old Exorcist,
Oh yeah.
Just a couple little farting around, you know what I'm saying?
It's funny, The Exorcist scared a lot of my friends. It didn't scare me. I just was like, this is a great movie. There's so many, like, the quotes and, like,
Really?
You know, I tend to hear them. I tend to watch a movie and I memorize the majority of the dialogue. So
Okay.
like, it's just kind of how my brain kind of works. So like, when I hear like really good dialogue, I can go back to it and like picture the scene. You
Okay.
know? Critters. It definitely doesn't have great dialogue, but it's entertaining. Definitely.
Hell yeah.
And I used to go rent, VHSs back, in the '80s, based on, just the cover art, the VHS cover art, and and so I would go through that stuff. So that was definitely my deepest era, is checking out the '70s and '80s stuff.
Okay.
You know?
What was the first horror movie that you think you saw?
I think I saw. That's
or
hard,
that you can remember.
My dad worked at DuArt, so he worked on a few things like Friday the 13th before he stopped doing film editing and went to do sanitation.
Oh,
so
damn.
I feel like I saw some stuff really. I saw Scarface at like age 6. So like I've seen.
Oh my.
I probably saw Friday the 13th when it came out. I know I saw all of the, Friday the 13th. I probably saw Nightmare on Elm Street when it came out, which is what, 82?
Yeah, 82, 83.
Yeah,
Yep.
So I definitely saw it like kind of not in the theater, but all the following ones, like I think 2, 3, and 4 I saw in the theater, and I mean, me and my mom would go to like just everything together. Like it started off with like Goonies and E.T., but like I was like, yeah, give me all the content. I don't care. So,
Right.
I don't remember exactly what the first horror thing I saw, but I just remember it was on once we started watching it. So I think if I was to pinpoint anything, it would probably be Jaws.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. That's actually the first movie I ever saw as well, and it absolutely terrified the shit out of me. I could be in lakes, even now, pools, when I was a little kid, and I'd have to look under the water just to make sure that there wasn't something chasing after me.
Actually, I got funny you say that. I have one of my buddy Tommy Lombardozzi, his artwork right here. I'm going to show it to you.
All right.
This is in my kitchen.
Oh shit!
Isn't that great?
Is sick.
Like,
oh my god, that rules.
Quinn was my hero as a kid. Like I was just like, and once again the dialogue. He's like a doll's eyes, and you see them. I was like, oh my god! Like that scene was actually the scariest part to me when they're drinking in the boat and they're talking, and he tells that whole story about the guys in the water. I'm getting chills right now saying like when he tells that story about how the sharks would surround them and that was the scariest thing in the movie to me.
Damn,
because it was like it was a memory and a depiction that he had survived,
Sure.
And it just, that's to me is like good dialogue. Like if a movie isn't like if you really turn off the picture and just listen to a movie and the music is pushing your emotion and the dialogue and the suspense is there, like I think that's the key to a really great horror film, or
Yeah, that's awesome. Somebody just recently I was talking to too had mentioned, and I completely agree, saying that a great horror movie is first and foremost a great movie. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the scares and about the jumps and all that, but if it's just an all around great movie, and then it just so happens to be terrifying in different elements, that adds all to it. I was like, oh yeah, that's a great way to break it down.
I remember being super uncomfortable when going to see the Blair Witch Project in the theater because I expected one thing because I saw like advertisements all over the village and everything, and I was like, what is this movie going to be? And then when you're in the theater and they shut the camera off and it's just the audio and it's panic and it's heavy breathing running around, I remember being like super like freaked out, like and that was a real, and because I didn't expect it, you know what I mean? And they put it under the impression that this was real footage, and it was just, and to me it was like, if you can turn off what's happening and the audio and you're scared, like I'm like, you're doing it right.
Yeah, for sure. That was one of those movies that they had kind of like the campaign going early on. Well, at least I had heard. I didn't get to see it in theater, but they were mentioning that the workers from the theaters would actually come out and stand before and say, out of respect for families, please be quiet, enjoy the picture. This is a real, film. This actually happened. Da 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 da. It's like I miss those types of things happening as far as just kind of a little bit of added fear to it. Those things are always really really cool. The Blair Witch.
the campaign they did in the village for that movie was incredible. When it was like I really went in thinking that I was going to watch a documentary. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then looking at the way that having my own VHS and filming shows at L'Amour's and everything.
Yeah.
I wasn't given that impression when I saw it until the end, and I was like, oh my god, that's the movie.
Right.
But I see my buddy Kenny, my guitarist in my first band. He wrote Gremlins. Gremlins is a great horror movie.
Great.
It's terrific. It's hysterical and it's terrific. It's one of my favorite of all time.
Those are always some of my favorites. Honestly, is like the whole the anthology series, and then monster movies has always just been my go-to as far as having a little bit of that silliness and a little bit of that goofy, but then being able to just be terrified of what the hell these things are too.
Yeah, and they had a little bit of that in Gremlins, where they would with the teacher, and then you don't get to see the monster and the music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was just like, what's happening?
Right. And so I've got to backtrack a little bit. I apologize. We were going to talk about you did a couple moving pictures of your own as far as music videos for Sick of It All too. I gotta hit on that. So how did that come about? We'll get back to horror in a second, but I do have to ask about these because
Thank you.
You love them.
So I did 2 videos for them thus far.
Uh-huh.
And they were both kind of like, hey, what do you guys think about this idea? And they're like, that's a pretty good idea,
Okay.
When it came to, I did Self-Important Shithead, and I did Bull's Anthem, which just recently came out.
Yeah.
Which is close to hitting 20K views.
Hell yeah.
I say in 4 weeks today, so yeah, keep them going, guys.
Yeah, that rules.
So Shithead was kind of like, I just kind of had this idea, and I went to see the guys that play with Life of Agony in Asbury Park, and we were backstage, and I was like, hey, here's this idea I have for the song. We never talked about it during the record or anything like that. I was like, how about we do a 1-minute video that just goes on social media? I didn't plan on it being an official video. I just figured it would just be like something we make. They liked the idea. Each guy was like, yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's funny. That sounds like it could be good. And so then I got my buddy Steve Perlmutter, who's always my cameraman / editor. He's just brilliant. Another huge... If you want to have a guy on talk about horror and filming and video, that's the guy.
Okay, hell yeah.
He, me and him, he wants to sit down and give me the skinny on The Shining in so many ways because I love that movie. But so Steve, I was just like, hey, I got this idea. I want to put, Twitter, because those are public domain, Twitter shit emojis over people's faces, and blah, blah. And he basically learned animation to make that video.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Yeah, so we just did it kind of guerrilla style and ran around the city. Nice to Melissa Litriadello. She helped us, and I got my other friend, Melissa Beethoven. She is a singer, and I was like, hey, you want to be a shithead with me? And I actually cast myself as the other shithead. Cause
right.
Once I realized all the legalities with the record label, I was like, oh, I better be the guy who's in this video. And so I got to run around and be an obnoxious asshole around New York City. And so did Melissa, and she was like, I'm down. And so we just shot all these different scenes and these different ideas, and they came out. I was very proud of it.
Yeah.
And to me, that was like, okay, cool. I don't need to do any more music videos. That came out well.
Yeah.
And then, the Bulls Anthem thing, we were trying to figure out, the guys were trying to figure out a video for that, and things, kept hitting roadblocks. And Lou kept saying this idea where he was like, why can't we just have, because, we have guest vocalists, why can't we just have them at, at a bar or somewhere, film themselves and just put them in? So really the Bulls Anthem idea was piggybacked off of Lou's original idea.
Okay.
And so we're all in quarantine, and we're like, what can we do? And we start figuring out stuff we can work on, and I kind of just threw out this idea of hey, why don't we have fan submitted footage like the quarantine videos we're seeing, and have the guest vocals that way of Chuck from Hot Water Music and Tim from Rise Against, and you guys could film yourselves at home, and it'll put everyone on the same playing field because, Craig's making a sauce and he's jumping around with his family, Armand's in his basement, Lou's coming out of his garage to sing, and Chuck's on his boat and Tim's driving his dog in his car. I was just like, let's do this. And they were like, okay, is this something you can undertake? I was like, sure. And I got to like try to get everyone in I could, you know what I mean? So I made like this spreadsheet, which in Google Docs, and I've never like arranged anything like that, but basically every window is its own separate music video. Right? And I took everyone's like best footage of them singing a line so that they would all just be like one big gang vocal the whole way through. And I'm very proud because it really was the fans that kind of made the video because it was so creative and they really were like super happy to be a part of it. And that made me feel like taking a bad situation and making something cool out of it was was ultimately the great payoff for it. So it's cool that I got to make music videos. It's not necessarily my thing,
right?
But I think that the people who like once again the we effort, the team effort, and the fans like just made it to be something that's like, how could this not be good? You know, how could this not be a success? You know?
right. You have Pete with the old cardboard cutouts all over in front.
and he did that on an Instagram live video, and I was just like, can you do that? And then he even did, I don't know if you noticed, he made like these little Monty Python ones of like Chuck and Tim.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is brilliant. Like like a little Monty Python reference right there. And you know, it was great. And I was just like, yeah, keep them going, and you know, get the family in there. And he would send me like another video.
Yeah,
it was really cool to see.
Really,
you know, the guys just add their own spin on things.
It certainly, you know, you kind of, in the time of darkness, you try to make light out of the things that you have, and that is a really cool thing, you know, being able to do that, and as well thinking of the fans, you know, to send in their submissions, and in a sense, kind of, you know, that's something I think that's always drawn to the band, is just kind of feeling that sense of passion and togetherness, you know, and it's kind of cool for the fans to feel involved with that as well.
Yeah.
So this was cool, really cool idea. I loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I had to bring up the videos, but we're gonna cut right back into horror, my doggy. All right. I just thought about it, and I was like, oh no, I didn't bring up. I gotta mention the music videos. Okay, so one of the movies that you mentioned that I wanted to talk about your first memories, what you love about it. The first one is Dead Alive. All right, let's talk Dead Alive, man.
So I don't even remember exactly how I found out about that movie, but all I know is it had to do with liking something like what's his name, Jackson from
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson. So his zooming up to things like something about like I saw like I think a trailer or something for it, and I loved like what it was doing. So I went and got the movie immediately, and I was like, this is so out there. There was so much blood just being sprayed. It reminded me of my first Guar concert I ever went to. I was 14 years old, where it was just like, and it was just kind of hilarious and ridiculous. And so that became one of my top favorites. And I remember like watching it for like the 15th time in college and like kind of studying it and being like, you know, because I'm taking like AV classes. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, you know, he's going to direct Lord of the Rings. And I was like, really? That's an interesting choice.
Yeah.
But I just think that movie's like super funny and awkward, and and just his like the lawnmower and the like, you know, the part one of the most genuine scenes when he goes like this and he slips in the blood, he kind of skates in it with the lawnmower, like, and the baby getting kicked around. It's just it's like a, I don't know if you've ever seen any of the Guar live videos from the 90s, like Phallus in Wonderland or Scumdogs and things like that. But they have these like ridiculous scenes and scenarios, and it kind of reminded me of that. So I kind of loved that movie.
Okay. Have you ever seen Bad Taste?
No, I haven't.
That's another one. I think that was before Dead Alive, but Peter Jackson did that one, and it's about these aliens that come to Earth that I think they poison hamburger meat, and they start like turning people into these. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's like Dead Alive, but maybe even more kind of way out there.
I think I've been told about it, and I was like, I remember the pudding scene, with the you know, and so And sometimes, like on the little squeamish thing, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to, if I'm in the mood for that. But I'll definitely go watch that now.
Yeah, Bad Taste is sick for sure. All right, so second movie that you had mentioned was, of course, Dawn of the Dead. All right, early memories. What can you tell me about that one?
That was definitely one of the ones I watched as a kid, and I thought it was mildly scary. Once again, like I didn't really ever get like shocked where I couldn't go to sleep or anything. Because I always knew it was like a movie, but I thought it was really relatable because of the scene, because of it being taking place in the mall.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It just seemed like it was really possible, and I also liked the slight comedic aspect of it. Again, like the music when it
the elevator music.
Like struggling with like the escalators and the fountains and just kind of being drawn back to what was their normal life.
Right.
And so that mixed with the very, very real danger of like coming in contact with them and then just ripping apart. I think the opening of the movie was the scariest to me.
Yeah.
And then kind of once it gets to the mall, it's more of a survival type movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love it. I just love the way he closed down a mall and shot a movie like that, and to me that's just kind of brilliant, And then when the motorcycle, and spoiler alert everyone, but the bikers show up. It's just a great like. I feel like it just can't be topped. Like it's just like you can't do that again. Like someone said, "Hey, I'm going to put zombies in a mall." And I'd be like, that's brilliant.
Right. One of the standout things for that movie for me personally was the effects. The one scene where the zombie goes to stand up by the helicopter and his head gets cut off.
Oh my God.
Dude, the first time I saw that, I'm like, how the hell did they do that? Absolutely insanity. It's crazy. And having old Tom Savini on.
There was I was kind of when I was getting into like these horror films and as a kid, I started getting like Fangoria and trying to look into the effect size of like maybe doing that as like a career when I got older. But it's so hard. To me, one of my buddies, Pro in Effects, he does like the amazing work. I'll send you his Instagram later, but when I see what people do, like, and what it takes, like, and the patience to make something, and then, like, it might not pull off or might not look good in that one scene, I was just like, there's just too much at stake there,
Right.
Like, I was like, that's too much pressure. It's like live audio. I don't like doing live audio because there's just too much pressure there. It's just like, get it done now. If it doesn't work, no.
Right. Right. Okay. All
right. I got shot in a body count video where I had squibs on. So, like,
that was you! Oh my god!
Yeah, talk shit, get shot. I'm the guy who was playing the hipster vegan.
Oh my god! My mind is blown. Holy shit! That's amazing.
Another random thing I have. Wait, where is it?
Oh man!
It's in the other room. But I have my Syndicate hat from L'Amour's in like '94 that I wish I could show Ice-T now, but he basically in that video. I only had one shot to get it right because they were going to film at high speed and then slow down, and the squibs would destroy the shirt and the blood would squirt everywhere. So, I'm not an actor. I'm just like, I better get this right. And when they peeled around, I just threw myself into this wall, and it ended up on TMZ with blood squirting and little emojis blocking it, and it was like, but it was a lot of pressure because it was like this was you get one shot to do this.
Yeah, right.
It's gonna these squibs. That's it. Blood's going to be everywhere. The costume's going to be ruined.
God, that is so sick. I can't believe that. I had no idea. That is crazy. But now you mentioned that. Dude, there it is, man. So sick.
Body count first record right there.
So sick. You got to hold on to that for sure. Don't let that go. Awesome.
Oh, I got that. I can do this all day. Wait, I got Guar right here. The Ritz. I cleaned out a closet in my parents' house. I got another. My wife just threw them in the room. Got Biohazard, Urban Discipline.
So sick. Man, shout out to your wife, man. Bringing in the props.
Shout out to see.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you marry an intern.
All right, sorry. Sorry, dude. It caught us. It got us. Damn.
They were like, too
But
many
anyway.
hats. Too many hats. This guy's wearing too many hats.
Right.
Director, engineer, too many hats. Get him out of here.
But shout out to your wife, man. The props, so sick. That's awesome. That is awesome. Now I'm gonna have to go back and watch that video today because I cannot fucking believe that. You know, it's funny too because I was just watching those videos last week, and I should have picked up on that. That is amazing. That's so sick that you were in that.
Me and my wife actually snuck ourselves into the Bulls Anthem video. These are our little matadors that we put.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, it's like the body count one. That was actually directed by my buddy Frankie Nasso, who owns Nova Studio.
Okay.
So he's done a few videos with that band. That's his main gig. Like, he makes music videos. So whenever I make one, sick of it all, I'm like, hey, can you look at this treatment? What do you think? And he's like, oh, good, change this. You know, he gives me like good direction on how to do something that I'm not formally trained to do. You know.
Hell yeah.
So, shout out to Frankie Nasso, who shot that body count, talk shit, get shot video, and cast me to get killed. He usually casts me to get killed in a lot of his music videos.
They always say with horror directors and those that are involved that the most fun that you have on the set is killing your friends.
Yeah.
I've never been in the position, but that's what they say. So, all right. So the last movies that we're going to go over. So I've got a couple of little props here to show you. First off is this T-shirt that's by Studio House Designs. I don't know if you ever hear of them. East Coast cats, super cool. We're going to go over the old Evil Dead. You know what I'm talking about? So we got the old Evil Dead. We've got, I don't know if you've ever seen this before, the Book of the Dead edition of the movie, the first Evil Dead. And then Evil Dead 2. So we're gonna settle the score, man. Which is better?
If I ever recommend anyone to watch Evil Dead, I tell them to go straight to Evil Dead 2, and I know people will disagree with me and for reasons. Mm-hmm. But there's a little, you know, Evil Dead 2 has a little summary, which like a real summary, like at the beginning, which you normally don't get in the second one. But then other people tell me to like watch Army of Darkness first, and I'm just like, okay. And they're just like, and it's all I think has to do with personal taste. I appreciate Evil Dead 1, you know, Evil Dead, I should just say, you know, but because it's just trying to be this, you know, it's trying to be this horror thing. Mm-hmm. Evil Dead 2, to me, it becomes a little bit self-aware.
Yeah.
But not too much. So it's still staying with, we want to, you know, scare you and everything like that. We want to have some comedy in here, but we are a little bit aware of what's going on. And then I feel like Army and Darkness, they're just like, yo, let's make a comedy. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So to me, I also love that a lot of, I should change the hat, a lot of Guar samples come from Evil Dead 2. But that's like, they use that on stage all the time. That actual sample. So I like that movie's been sampled, like Wu-Tang would sample from certain, you know, old Kung Fu flicks. Guar would take from Evil Dead 2, a little bit from 1. But it just, once again, it has this dialogue, you know, that Ash has with the people. And it's good to have watched the first one because when he, like, looks at someone like you don't know what you're talking about, it's because it's in reference to 1, so it is important to me. But I find it's just so entertaining, and just his mental breakdown and his, like, you know, to me the best scene in Evil Dead 2 is when everything is moving in the room and he just looks at the lamp and he does he imitates the lamp. To me, it's just like, it's the pinnacle of insanity and bizarreness, and it's also hilarious. Yeah. And he sells it to me like that lamp is just alive, you know? And
so awesome.
You know, to me, like, that's the reason why it's like Evil Dead is here. Evil Dead 2 is my pick.
I can say I'm going with Evil Dead 2 as well, with the silliness.
Oh my god.
Boom.
Yes. When
you know, that's
and it's like, and it's so bizarre and entertaining, but at the same time, it still is off-putting. Like, once again, it's like why, like, all this stuff is moving and they're just inanimate objects, but it's like, you know, the cabin. It's just it's just that, to me, like, it's a brilliant original kind of idea.
Yeah.
to incorporate all those things. That's what I think is unnerving about it. Is it's both funny and disturbing and relatable. Just like the mall in Dawn of the Dead. It's just like it'd be terrifying if all these cabinets in my house just started like opening and laughing and moving.
Oh my God!
You know, it would just be terrifying. You know?
No, and one thing too that kind of brought to light, especially with Evil Dead 2, as opposed to the first one, is Bruce Campbell in being a physical comedian. Just the scene where his hand's possessed and he's like grabbing onto the floor and pulling himself and like and just like having to, smashing plates over his head and shit. Amazing. Amazing. Absolutely awesome.
That's why people love Army of Darkness, is because by then they're just watching like Ash. They're watching, they're there for him and his boomstick and everything. But to me, it's like in Evil Dead 2, we see the transition from the character he was trying to play in Evil Dead to the comedic like depth of this person who's like completely lost it and gets possessed and just doesn't. You don't understand what we've been going through in this house. People show up and it's like, he's just like, don't do that.
He's a lo-fi horror guy. Yeah, he's kind of a guy, but he is so lo-fi a horror guy. Yeah, baby.